Hello, shut up, lady. This happens every
Wow,
time. That's
new.
new, isn't it? It's new, isn't it? The lady just says,
Recording in progress.
and
It's like,
the viewers never hear it. So I do an intro, and I always get interrupted. That
I think
aggravates me.
I think the lady does it so that we, as like your podcast contributors, are aware that you're recording us, and so you're not
Yeah.
trying to sort of subtly
Mug you
spy
off, yeah, just mug you off, yeah.
subtly sort of do anything dodgy,
Yeah, I'm with you.
But yeah, hello.
Hello, listeners.
Hello. Yeah,
And yes, I'm eating a cornetto in 1066. I'm that old.
unfortunately, the podcast has devolved, and yeah, we're now in black and white.
I think what it is, obviously you see a lot of these kind of noir films and stuff like that these days. So what we've actually decided to do, as the Timeless podcast has been running for over a year now, we've decided to turn it a bit Kurosawa.
Yes,
And-
that's
and-
a good reference, though.
Mate, I know my stuff.
You go on,
I
yeah.
don't only watch Doctor Who and WWE.
Yeah, because if you only watch WWE, you wouldn't have any idea what good storytelling is. Especially if you watch
Oh.
Monday Night Raw. Especially if you watch Monday Night Raw.
I mean, some people would say that if you watch certain eras of Doctor Who, you wouldn't know what. But yeah,
Let's not go there. But yeah, so today on the agenda, obviously, we're going to be talking about the Time Meddler, the William Hartnell story. But first, there's like lots of news and shiz to get through. So the day we're filming this on, and I'm going to try and get it out tomorrow. I know the schedule's maybe a bit miffed, but next week we should be back with Mondays, and me and Macaulay should be talking about Spider-Man: Homecoming. I hope if everything goes to plan, I can get recording sorted. I also apologize. You can hear like family murmuring. We got people over at the minute, and they're just making noise because.
yeah, and I apologise for any background noise at my end because I've got about 3 fans on.
It's hot. And
It's 29 degrees today.
And Owen didn't share his fucking cornetos with the rest of the group.
I'm sat here with a Czech pale ale.
I'm sat with my usual Pepsi. But
Although I apologise to our Scottish viewers and listeners because the Czech Republic have beat Scotland 2-0 today.
2-0 and a second worldy goal as well. It's because this obviously football and Doctor Who aren't the most conversation. But let's talk about Sunday afternoon was a fun. Well, first of all, we could talk about Saturday, I suppose. I saw both of you at the British Film Institute showing of Dragonfire.
Yeah,
I saw you as I was arriving and you were leaving.
Yes.
I mean, although as we speak today, the Dragonfire set has now been put back a week to the 28th of June. Myself and Alex were privileged enough to get to see a sneak peek of some of the bonus material for the set as part of the Dragonfire screening on Saturday, and it really has sort of whetted the appetite. I'm quite open about the fact season 24 isn't necessarily my favourite season, but just from the sort of 5 minutes that we saw of an interview with Sylvester McCoy and the Patricia Quinn interview, I think everybody that came out of there was like rubbing their hands and chomping their teeth. They're like, they really want us to get hold of that now.
Yeah, I think every bonus feature looked, interesting, and I think even the behind the sofa stood out because Davison's having a great time in that one, especially. He was he in the clips that we saw, because like John said, we saw like 5-minute previews of each. He was the one that started to be most on the behind the sofa.
I like the way that Colin and Michael Jaston were bouncing off of each other as well, actually, in their behind the sofa bits, because obviously Colin's going to have a few things to say about this season, and so Sylvester, and I think it's all going to be a bit kind of tongue in cheek. So it does look really, really good. And 2 weeks from today, or well, this is being published tomorrow, 13 days away, it will be dropping through everybody's letterboxes. Well, it's probably too thick for that, so you'll get a knock on the door from Kablam Man.
Yeah, exactly. Kablam Man, indeed. Or any other space kind of parcel. Is there any other space?
I mean, I would say other space parcel delivery providers are available, but I'm not aware of any. Actually, I think Kablam are the only ones that have been established in the Doctor Who universe.
Yes. But look, So yeah, Dragonfire was my first watch of Dragonfire. I won't give my opinions here just because in case me and Owen get it in like 5 months' time or something in our ranking, and then you already know my opinion. That kind of defeats the purpose of the show. But I enjoyed the experience as a whole. I'll say that, and
you got to watch it literally 6 feet away from me.
yeah. It was fun. I said off camera as well. It's obviously John's a big fan of Innuendo and going, "Ooh," he does even on the show, and literally he was still doing that during the screening. So he was the row behind me, and obviously because of distancing, there was like 2-3 people per row, so he was directly behind us. I just randomly hear him midway through the episode go, "Ooh," as well as the Q&A, just randomly going, "Ooh."
I am quite a fan of the Kenneth Williams. Oh,
yeah,
it's like my go-to gif, and as viewers on the YouTube Air will be able to see at the moment, I actually have the meddling monk Peter Butterworth from Carry On Abroad as my background, as Monsieur Mario.
Also, just have to say welcome to the new viewers that have subscribed since our Time Fracture podcast. This one's going to be a bit more, bit more fun. That one was a bit more of a serious review because obviously we wanted to give our honest our thoughts on that because it's a very tricky thing to discuss and blah blah. But thank you for everyone that's.
You were going to say a bit more colourful then, and then you looked at the screen.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, and then I was like, no. But yeah, it's going to be a bit more tongue in cheek this time. Even though we did say the word cunt in the last one anyway, so so it's like,
wow.
Have a guess which one of us did that.
Again, why don't you?
Have a guess which one of us did that. Yeah.
Yeah. John, you've been a trooper on the podcast. You've been on, what is it? This is like your fourth week.
Shift lately. This is like my third one in 4 weeks or something.
Yeah, it says.
I've done, this is like my third one in 8 days or something ridiculous like that.
And then you'll be back soon for SummerSlam as well.
I will be back soon for SummerSlam and Infinity War, whichever comes first.
It'll probably be SummerSlam.
As the actress said to Bishop.
Probably would think SummerSlam, just that they'll probably coincide with each other again. But yeah. So BFI, we had a few drinks as well afterwards, and you could, if you follow us on the various social medias, you can see all the photos from the evening and things like that. There's a lot of photos taken, things.
It's been a while since I drank 10 pints.
I couldn't drink that much because I travelled up and back the same day, and I'm never doing it again.
I think I had 3 double vodkas when I was there, and I did drink them quite quickly. So I did feel a bit pissed afterwards and had to stop before I started making myself feel sick.
But yeah, I'm never travelling up to London and back home in the same day again because 8 hours of travel, it's not fun.
I would hasten to add that 10 pints was between about 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. So
yeah,
it was quite spaced out with a 3-hour break in the middle.
The worst thing was, obviously, fans of the show know we love beef here. So the first person I bump into the BFI is beef. It's 10:30 in the morning, and we get to a table. And he's like, "Right, what pint do you want?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, no, we're not having any of this. What pint do you want?" I've literally been awake since 6:30. I'm shattered. I drank the earliest I've drank in my life.
I mean, I literally told him I'll see you in the bar about 11 o'clock. Yeah. So like, I think he was even looking out for me walking around. He saw me come around the corner. He's like, "Oi."
Yeah. Because he was like, "I see John," and I'm like, "Where?" And he's like, "I see." Obviously, because he can stand up and he could look over. I was like, I couldn't see him, but yeah. Because I think you were the third person to arrive, weren't you? It was me.
I was, yeah. He probably saw me. I was chatting to our friend who runs the Quiz of Rassilon up on the corner, and then I sort of heard people calling me over for a beer. So I'm like, yeah.
So we had a good day there, and then obviously Euros on Sunday. Hey, which Owen you missed because you were saving the universe or something.
It is officially coming home.
Until we face Germany, or France. Is it Germany, France, or Portugal? Is that the predicament?
Yeah, I mean, it's at home. If we win the group, then we will play whoever finishes second in Group F, which is likely to be Germany, France, or Portugal, but could be Hungary.
That would be the spoiler of the tournament.
But so yeah. I mean, the important thing is, I've seen a couple of people say, "Oh, well, we're better off not winning the group." But I'm sorry, if we win the group, then the second round, I think either the quarterfinal or the semi-final. and then the final are at Wembley. So you win the group, you stay at Wembley, except for one match, which, as we saw yesterday, is a huge advantage.
Yeah, I think the England fans. I think this again, it's a really good thing. Obviously, this is a sad day for some people in the UK and some businesses. Obviously, with things being put back 4 weeks. But hearing a crowd again, and like obviously there was a few that boos and stuff. I'm not a massive fan of that, but it's what comes with football. But hearing that a crowd and just them being electric, it felt alive.
I think I mentioned last time that we were on about sort of a couple of the crowd reactions that I'd heard in cup finals and stuff, and it was like great to have them back. I mean, it is sad to have everything put back 4 weeks, but in 2 weeks' time, we're getting a season 24 box set come through. We've got wall-to-wall football until then. We're still able to do all of the things that we can do now, so we can still go out and have a drink. And I got a case of wine delivered today for 20 quid off of a contact, so I'm not complaining at all.
There we go. Brilliant. Yeah. Owen, obviously, you're sort of similar to me. We're sort of football fans, but maybe not. We don't watch as much as John. But I think Euros, World Cup, everyone just gets involved. I think even non-football fans, they sort of get involved and things like that. I mean, obviously, you missed the game because you were saving the universe.
Yes, I was at the time fracture yesterday.
Yes.
It wasn't quite as much as I expected it to be. I think we may have had a different experience to you.
Yeah, Beef had a conversation with us and gave us a lowdown. And things. We won't go into details here because it's not our place to say. But things seem.
And obviously, we're not trying to put anyone off going. I
think people need to kind of listen to the feedback that they get and judge it for themselves. I think, to be honest.
All I can say and all John can say, and obviously it doesn't take away from Owen say, but when we went, it was a vastly positive experience. And when Owen went,
most of the reviews I've heard are good.
If you would like to hear the Timeless Podcast's official views on Time Fracture, please listen to the previous episode.
It's literally the last video on the YouTube channel or the last thing on your feed, so you can't really miss it.
And that one's in colour.
That one is in colour. This feels weird, but I am liking this aesthetic. Well, it's might have to be a thing.
Although what's weird is when one of us is speaking, we still get the box in yellow.
Yeah.
So it kind of spoils the 1950s aesthetic a little bit.
Yeah. One of us is don't go there.
No, we're live on YouTube. We can't do that. And then obviously as well.
I mean, if you say that, the bird will literally have flown.
And so will the subscribers. So
it's flown and left a massive shit on your head.
Also, as well, LFCC being put back until November. I was in 2 minds of going. I didn't purchase a ticket. I'm happy I didn't now. You guys have purchased.
I booked a Sunday ticket. I think you did as well, didn't you, John?
Yeah, when the Saturday ticket sold out, I bought myself a Sunday ticket because I was like, if the Sundays sell out, then I'll feel a bit gutted because there were a few Doctor Who guests on the Sunday I'd like to meet. If they retain most of the guests for November, I'm more than happy, if not happier, to go on the Sunday in November. I know some people are a little bit upset because at the moment it clashes with Wales Comic Con, which isn't actually in Wales anymore. But you know, we'll find out.
Whether you don't call it Telford.
We'll find out nearer the time. What's going on with all that? But yeah, I mean, it's an obvious decision. I think it was on the cards for most people anyway, and it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, because as well, I think, I'm not a Boris Johnson fan. I don't think any of us are particularly, but I agree with the science. So just give it a few more weeks, get those jabs in arms. It's clear the vaccines work. So the more people vaccinated, the better the defenses. It seems pretty sane to me. And again, the whole thing of the people that are now getting vaccinated are the young people. We're at that stage now where the people that are actually going out and mixing can actually get their jabs. I think from tomorrow, people aged 23 and 24 can actually book. So, there'll be a lot of our friends on the podcast as well who are more in my age range who haven't got it yet can now book theirs and get it sorted, which is nice. So yeah,
as of tomorrow, which is the 15th, I will be fully vaccinated.
Yeah, hopefully you don't feel like shit again.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Because if you you viewers won't know, but Owen was not. I think we were meant to film a podcast that day, and you had to decline because you were awful, so we had to push it back. I think that was what started to happen. And you were like, "Mate, I can't do it."
I feel like I'd been hit by a bus at the time, so I'm hoping that either the side effects will be won't be as bad.
My second dose gave me dizzy spells for a day or so and gave Sparky the shits for 4 days. So I'm not saying that those two things are necessarily related, but for all you vaccine conspiracy theorists out there.
Yeah, I've been getting some questions from the viewers.
So have you both got all your 5G signal?
Yeah, got 5G. Yeah, 5G.
Wonderful.
I mean, I am.
Cancel
I am literally running this laptop that we're recording this podcast on off of my own skin.
It's sort of like, what is it? It's the villain from Torchwood who had the thing in her arm. Yeah, we gain that, and when we plug it in, we plug our arms into the computers and we power.
We're literally the bells of St. John. We are the aliens and the Wi-Fi.
We're the spoonheads, yeah. Yeah, and also I never like commenting on rumors, but this big and I've been getting some messages and all that. With the whole Jodie Whittaker leaving in 2022 after some specials came out recently or today. It's all a bit confusing. We won't give too much cadence to this because we don't know, and this could all be bollocks, and therefore we're wasting time. But
it could be. But one thing to think about is that when she signed her contract for the third series, there would have been a specific number of episodes. That would potentially have been 10 episodes as series 1 and series 2.
I would have reckoned it would have been 11.
Well, no, I mean, if I finish my point, it would potentially have been 10 episodes as series 1 and series 2 were.
Yep.
Obviously, we know that series 13 is going to be 8 episodes. So doing a couple of specials would cater for 8 episodes and then fill out the rest of her contract.
Yep.
That's not necessarily to say she's not going to sign another contract, but there's a degree of logic to the rumor.
Yeah.
I'm not going to comment on whether I think it's the right time or not, because I think that comes very much down to people's personal opinions, and you're always going to upset somebody by saying what you think.
Yeah.
Personally, I love her as a Doctor. I think if there are problems with this era, they aren't necessarily with her. And so replacing the Doctor will not fix that. But, I think it's just, it's one of those things where you wait and see. We'll likely get an announcement over the coming weeks. They like to do announcements during big football matches, so probably sometime during the Euros final.
Yeah. Obviously, like I said, I won't comment on. I would just say myself, I'm a big Jodie fan. I'm a fan of the era. I get obviously a lot of jokey, but I get a lot of shit in our group for being quite positive on the matter, and saying that I enjoy this this era of the show, and I find it entertaining, and I've thoroughly enjoyed both series 11 and 12. I enjoy the toughest child out, which is one thing. There's going to be a lot of shit in the early years of this podcast because it was like episode 8, and I said, "Oh, I really enjoyed that episode," and everyone went, "What is wrong with you?" But I'm a big fan. I'll be sad to see her go. Like John said, if there are problems with the era, it's definitely not down to her. I think she is a beacon of light as a human being, it seems, and I really like her characterization of the Doctor.
Yeah, and the connection that she has with fans, the connection that she has with younger fans, would be very difficult to replace. I was a big fan of Series 12. I wasn't the biggest fan of Series 11. I was a big fan of Series 12. Things seem to be going in the right direction.
Yeah. But John, you love Demons of the Punjab.
You mean that 45-minute story?
50.
Oh God, I must have fallen asleep at 5. You mean that 50-minute story where absolutely nothing happens? Absolutely nothing would have been changed. The Doctor and the companions not been there, and they fundamentally got the history and political points of the Indian partition wrong.
Well, damn. There we go.
And yet everybody loves it because they're like, "Oh, isn't it brilliant?" And I read up on the history. Britain's part in that was a lot more significant and a lot more responsible and leaving a lot more to be desired than was painted in that episode. Hey, if it comes out of your little box, I'm more than happy to come on and talk about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that'll be a fun one again because it'll be like me and you opposing because it's one of my favorite Jodie stories. So
yeah, I'm really not a fan. In fact, I know one or two people that I'd invite to come on with me to support my argument.
Hang on, no, you can't bring backup. Because even if I bring somebody who likes it, they'll still turn on me mid podcast to like shit on me.
John turns up with a lynch mob, flaming torches and everything.
And Owen, finally, your opinions on Jodie and maybe not if it's the right time, but your opinion on her as the Doctor anyway, and just what you think and that kind of stuff.
I mean, my opinions are very similar. I think she's great. I think the writing let her down a lot in the first series, but things did improve a lot in series 12, and I tend to enjoy it much more having returned.
Hang on, Owen, your audio went a bit shaky on my end though. I don't know whether it did for John as well. So if you want to repeat your last sentence, you kind of went something about underwater.
What was I saying? So yeah, series 12, I felt that there was more shocks, twists, turns, returning characters, monsters, and that's what I liked about it in general. I like shocks and surprises.
Yeah.
What I would say is, if she, regardless of whether it's soon or not, when she does go, I do strongly feel that the 14th Doctor should be another woman.
Me too.
I think if that's not the case, then the wrong kind of element of fandom will see it as a victory, and we'll see this as a failed experiment, which really isn't the case at all.
No.
So I think you had to send a strong message that actually, in order to send a strong message that anybody can play the Doctor, you need another woman, so that this is just a one-off.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the right choice. Again, I'm sort of in two minds because there also could just be another male actor who could just nail it, and from that point on, we're doing the first few months for the build-up. But I think, like you said, in terms of unfortunately, we live in a political world where everything go wrong. So as soon as a man got announced, even if it wasn't like, oh yeah, we're not going to have a woman again, that's what they would say on the tabloids, and it's just not the case. But I will say as well, John, the thing you hit the nail on the head. Jodie has a great relationship with the younger fans, and that's what Doctor Who is all about. I'm some of the older fans, and we have a right to enjoy it as much. But the Doctor is an icon to children, and Jodie embodies that, I think, more than most of the modern Doctors. All classic, See, if you look, for me, and this again, this thing, it's Capaldi because I loved him, but I think even Matt, I think Jodie, you see people, girls or boys, love Jodie, wear the merch, I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah. My nephew is 10 years old and he adores her. He absolutely adores her. And some of the little videos that she did for lockdown and stuff like that really helped him out a lot last year when he was struggling with the way that things were changing. And that's, let's not forget, that's the key demographic. Yeah, adults can love the show. Yeah, adults go and buy the merch. Primarily, it has to appeal to kids. They are the key demographic. What we think doesn't matter as much as children.
Yeah, and again, I think that's the perfect thing. And I think it will be a shame when she goes. And I think even talking about Time Fracture without spoiling it again, I think the fact that she is at the forefront, I think that's also going to entice kids to go to that because
she's on all the buses, she's on all the adverts.
And people, and I think people saying that, oh, it's too Jodie centric. This is still her show for now. Everything should be marketed around her until she regenerates.
But you can't win. People say Time Fracture's too Jodie centric. At the same time, other people complain that she's not on the front of the annual. So you can't win.
No,
you're never going to play. If you're a Doctor Who production or whatever, you're always going to upset something.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff like between her and David Bradley as the first Doctor. So you've got a mix of the two. So it's kind of like a happy medium for both new and classic fans.
Yeah, again, and also I think as well, it's always that thing of they're sort of playing up to that within the scene. Again, we're not going to spoil what the scene's about, but the scene where those two pop up together, they're playing on the fact that Jodie is more the modern kind of happy-go-lucky type, and Bradley's the more astute.
More serious.
And I think, do you know what? Because I know as well, and again, there's nothing against him, but I know Beef was more a fan of Bradley, and maybe not the biggest Jodie fan. But again, I suppose that's the point. Jodie's there for the younger viewers. I'm not saying there can't be a mix, but they're certainly playing to those strengths, and they know that
it's a happy medium for everyone.
Yeah, and I'm all for Jodie staying around for one more, two more series. I've also to stay, to be honest. I'm all for it. But anyway, let's get into this week's review. And Owen, because I don't know why, but I'm just getting this feeling that you wanna give the synopsis for this one and introduce the Time Meddler.
Okie dokie. So just before the Time Meddler, we've left behind Ian and Barbara in London 1965, which was in the chase. And the Doctor is travelling with Vicky, and they stumble upon Stephen, who seems to have found his way in the TARDIS. So it's all set around 1066, and the invasion of the Vikings, and you've got the monk who is a time meddler, and he's also another one of the Doctor's kind. Also has a TARDIS, as you can see behind me.
Yes, I'm the only one that didn't bring my own virtual background today. I feel bad as a host that I didn't do it, but hey ho. So this is the first watch for me. I know you guys have watched it maybe multiple times, once or twice, I don't know, but this is the first watch for me. But yeah, I'm gonna just start by saying I enjoyed this one. I think it's very, very good. Which people go because I assume a lot of viewers are thinking you probably won't enjoy this so much because it's Hartnell. No, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I think it moved along at a snappy pace. I think the story isn't great, but what makes up for it is the dialogue. The interaction between characters in this story is so good, whether it's in part one and you've got the Doctor and Stephen having a back and forth and the whole space helmet for a cow thing. And then you've got the monk and the Doctor just going back and forth in parts 3 and 4 especially. Hartnell is on fire in this story, and he's doing...
He certainly is, yeah.
He's doing a great job, and it makes up for not a bad story, but a story that's definitely carried by the characters more than the story or going along itself.
Yeah, I mean, in Peter Butterworth as the monk, Hartnell's got somebody very good to bounce off of, and they bounce off of each other, and they make each other better. Their chemistry works really well. Yeah. I mean, the story itself is maybe a little lightweight. They get the key plot points across that basically this man is as the title suggests, he is a time meddler. He's somebody who plays pranks, plays tricks. He wants to essentially screw up the history of the Earth. He mentions things like, William Shakespeare could show Hamlet on television. He could write it for television and stuff like this. It's all about sort of introducing technologies that the world really isn't ready for, and making fundamental changes to history. There's not really a kind of purpose to it. It's all just for his own fun because he enjoys doing it. It's this sort of Machiavellian, I'm just going to sit back and watch the chaos, which I think as a motivation works really well. Obviously, he's only the third Time Lord that we've ever get to see after the Doctor and Susan. So again, it's a significant story from the fact that there are others of the Doctor's race out there, and they aren't necessarily all working for good.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting as well that he's not just obviously like the Master who would come later. He's not just straight evil. He's more got sort of this childlike playfulness about how he goes about things. He's not just straight, I want to do this for evil. He's more like, I want to do it because it's fun. Like, imagine what I can do. Like, it's really interesting. And like the fact that there's the scene where Hartnell's sort of playing up to it and then he just turns. I think that's really good. Where Hartnell's like, oh, that's a really good idea, and he turns straight away. brilliant. And again, I think as well, just the fact that again, the part one, which I find of most classic stories to be the most interesting, I would say is actually the weakest of the four in this story, because you have the really good interaction within the first 5 minutes and they're sort of just pottering about a bit. Hartnell goes to see the lady and then he walks about while Stephen and Vicky are chatting, and it's like, oh, nothing's going on. And then the cliffhanger is really good because he just randomly comes across this record player, and you're like, well, that's not on. And I think even within part one, or it might be early part two, you find Stephen's got the watch. We've found the watch because the whole build-up is Stephen doesn't believe the TARDIS is a time machine. He's like, nah, this is tosh. This you can't. I don't believe it. And then you're like, what is going on here? And then the drawbridge comes down, Hartnell's stuck, and that's your cliffhanger. And you want to find out what happens next, because not only do you want to know what happens to Hartnell, you know what's going on with the weird bits of technology that shouldn't be about. You want to, it's such a good ending to the first part, but it has a slow build, which is great because then it makes the other parts feel more important, and it doesn't let the story down.
Yeah, I mean that cliffhanger is outstanding. If you're coming to, I mean, the first time I watched it was probably like the early 90s. I think it was shown on the BBC. Actually, I think the BBC chose to repeat it in the early 90s. And I knew a bit about the story and the meddling monk beforehand. But if you were coming to that completely afresh and didn't know at all what to expect, and suddenly in 1066 you've got a bloody record player, you would be like, wow, what's going on here? I'm going to tune in next week. Which is exactly what a cliffhanger should be doing. It draws you in for the following week perfectly, because it's like, record player, doctor laughing, drawbridge, monk laughing. Whoa.
The doctor doing his here's Johnny impression through the bars of the gates.
Yeah, just like, let me out.
Yeah, again, I think as well, it totally uses the sort of, because they didn't do this very much of the thing in the classic and the later classic era, but in the early 60s at least, they did the whole, even when the credits come up, there's still visuals on the screen, so you still get those few seconds of Hartnell staring off and looking at something. It's that also would entice me to just go, what is going on? I think it's just a really good setup for a story. Like John said, goes along at its own pace, has maybe not the most intriguing story, but a story nonetheless which connects, makes sense, entertaining. But for me, the characters just give it that extra gear that just make it go.
You can tell that whenever they do the next episode, they film the starting scene, which is the last scene from the last episode. They're filming it all over again, because when episode 3, the monk pulls back the blanket. Actually, no, is it the monk? Was it Vicky? No, I think it's Vicky. Pulls back the blanket, and the rug that's underneath is completely different to the one that you see in the previous episode. So yeah, it's sort of like funny to sort of like watch back and think, hang on, the slight differences.
Yeah, again, yeah, I think that's again as well, because I've not watched I've not watched many Vicky Steven episodes. I think they were the gunfights together, which I've watched half of and turned it off because that song got on my tits and then went back to
that. I think that's Dodo rather than Vicky.
Is it Dodo? Okay, well, this is my first Vicky episode, and I really really liked her. Again, she's sort of maybe not as she's not as headstrong as most companions, but she's not in this story anyway. She's not a damsel in distress. She's working along with Stephen. They're working like in tandem, even though they're also shouting at each other. She's got a bit, a bit of spice to her. She's not just there listening to Stephen's shit and taking it. Like,
yeah, I'm one of these weirdos that prefers Vicky to Susan.
I agree.
I always kind of struggled with Susan a little bit. With Vicky, you always kind of get the impression that actually she wants to be there. She wants to be traveling and going on these adventures. Whereas with Susan, she always kind of wanted away. I've always had a little bit of a soft spot for Vicky. I think that the dynamic changes a bit after Ian and Barbara leave. And so she's less of a kind of younger student or pupil to them. And, it's more of a kind of equal relationship with Stephen as she's grown in confidence and independence.
So what episodes does she come in and then leave?
So she comes in the rescue, So then after that, you've got the Romans, the Space Museum. Then I think it's
The Chase.
the Web Planet and the Chase. So yeah, she's in a few with Ian and Barbara. So yeah, the Romans, Rescue, Web Planet, Chase, Space Museum.
The Rescue had the Coquillin in it, didn't it?
Yeah, that was Vicky's first episode, and then obviously she's in this. After this, I'm struggling to think if there's another one with Stephen. She leaves in the Myth Makers just before the Dalek Master Plan.
There you go. Because how long's Stephen in the tower? How many stories? Because obviously he's there for the gunfighters.
Stephen lasts until season 6. I think it's AA, which is the Savages. So just before the War Machine. So he lasts pretty much until Dodo's introduction and nearly until Dodo leaves. He's there for a good year.
And so Owen, don't ruin the whole. This is meant to be one big podcast. I don't want to do breaks. Don't spoil it. There was no new link sent in.
There was a glitch. Shut up. Carry on.
Yeah. You're the one that fucking caused it.
You return to us seamlessly on the Shameless podcast when absolutely nothing has changed from 30 seconds of all.
Yes. Owen, anything you want to comment on?
Have we suddenly been joined by Max Wall?
I don't understand that reference.
Yeah, so we were saying.
Kids.
What were we saying?
Kids, ask your parents or grandparents.
I was going to say to you, Owen, just some general opinions on the story.
I thoroughly enjoy the story. And yeah, as we were saying earlier on about the Doctor and Stephen and the sort of they're just sort of like, at each other at the time, because Stephen's not believing that, he's been in a time machine and they've travelled in time. And the whole, the sharpness of the Doctor saying, what do you think it is? A space I went for a cow. The whole, the bouncing off of each other with the Doctor and the monk, because even though the monk isn't as evil as the Master, there's that sort of like the humour there, and it's like very light-hearted, and they just work together so well, Mr. Hartnell and Mr. Butterworth.
Yeah.
And and of course, it at the time no doubt gave kids sort of like a lesson on history, with the Battle of Hastings and such things. So
yeah, again, I think because I think when I was first watching it, I felt the Battle of Hastings part was a bit half baked, but then when you get to the end of the story, you realize it's not really about that. They're not building to the Battle of Hastings, because you find out actually there's a guy messing with time and wants to change the tide of the Battle of Hastings. So this is the story we're telling. We're not telling the story of the Battle of Hastings.
Yeah, I mean it's
also the invasion of the Vikings, who are being led by King Harold Hardrada, is it?
I've no idea. My history is not great.
And the king
there go with
that. King Harold, I think.
Yeah, so 1066 was a year of 3 kings. So essentially, going into the year, I think Edward the Confessor was the king. So you go, and then he died. Harold took over. By the end of the year, following the Battle of Hastings, William the Conqueror was the king. But one of the main reasons that they put down to William the Conqueror winning the Battle of Hastings was the fact that Harold had to go further up the east coast to the north to fend off the Vikings shortly before. So, it was a bit of a kind of too much of an ask to fight 2 major battles in such a short space of time. So I think sort of the monk's plan really was to kind of make things easier for the Vikings, to make things easier for them to then fight off the Normans, which would have significantly changed the course of British and probably European history.
So there we go. Thank you for History Corner, John, because I had no idea what was going on. So thank you for telling me the stakes of the story.
I mean, I got an E in A-level history. We didn't study this period.
But still, well done on your vast knowledge there.
Well, that's right. I watch a lot of quiz shows.
Yeah, I see your tweets about Pointless every now and then. I watched the ending of today's episode. They did shit on the phone a bit, but
I only kind of I was watching a bit of the football because I only kind of really caught very much the end of that question. I would have got a pointless answer on Spinal Tap.
Yeah. Going back to the story, just so our viewers aren't like, why are they talking about this shit? I think the one side that, to me, this is a lacking compared to other Hartnell historicals or Doctor historicals in general, is side characters from the era. You don't really get many memorable, if any, memorable side characters leaving the story. The monk as a character is great, but again, at the time, you don't really get any characters from the time period that you really latch onto and you really like, which sort of is a staple within Doctor Who. And like when you go to a classic, you're like, oh, I like that character from then, that sort of thing. Whereas this story, I think it's lacking that. You sort of don't really care. You struggle to care about the people that are actually could be in danger that you meet along the way. And I think that's the bit where the episode kind of falters for me slightly.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. A lot of the focus is on the monk. And so you don't necessarily get the feel that you do from most historicals of kind of being in that time period, so a lot of the focus is on, quite rightly, on the monk, because it's not necessarily about them having an adventure in that history. It's about somebody trying to change that history and they've got to stop him. It's got more of a kind of sci-fi event than most of the historicals at the time.
Yeah. Again, I think, like I said, I don't mind it going in a different direction. It's just, to me, the characters that our main cast interacted with, the sort of there to serve a purpose and had no other extra development to them, which I think classic historicals do very well most of the time, is give you some very memorable side characters. Obviously, is it Dennis Spooner who wrote this the story? Who I think did a few other stories, right? I could be completely wrong, but this isn't, is it? I'll quickly Google it. You guys talk about something fun. This is always everyone's favorite bit when I access to Google shit. The
Timeless Podcast will be back shortly.
I've got an ad for Fast and the Furious 9. Piss off.
I have never seen a Fast and Furious film, but I'm tempted by this because it's got The Rock in it.
I've never watched them. I have no interest in them.
Okay, so he's got. It doesn't tell me which ones he specifically has written, but it tells me he's had a lot of. He's had a lot of work on essentially every story of the first. He's done a lot of stuff. He's credited for a lot of stuff in the first three seasons. So
he wrote the Reign of Terror.
Yeah, he wrote. So it says here he wrote. His first episode was the Romans. Then he did Time Meddler.
So he's very much in doing historical stories.
Yeah. I think
I'm not sure.
He did the Reign of Terror as well.
Yes, what I mean. The Reign of Terror. The Romans wouldn't have been his first, because the Reign of Terror was the first bit. But yeah, a lot of the historicals he wrote.
Yeah. Again, I think out of
the Romans is a bit of a belter, actually. So it's great.
I've not watched Reign of Terror either.
Yeah,
That's my opinion. We'll
yeah,
say that.
that's maybe not so good.
But yeah,
Not that I really want to watch it again because I'll probably fall asleep.
I think though we were talking about cliffhangers, but I think even the part 3 cliffhanger may be slightly better than the part 1 cliffhanger, especially when you got viewers at the time.
Yes.
I think that, you know, with them seeing a TARDIS and it, you know, obviously because people wouldn't have clocked because it's not a blue box. Obviously, that's what the viewers and us are used to as being, you know, what TARDIS look like. You know, to actually have a TARDIS that has a working communion circuit and you just see it and you see Vicky and Stephen walk in there is really a really good cliffhanger. Cause like this guy is not. We should be worried about him. He's not going to be a regular foe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
true. Just as a side note on Dennis Spooner, he also wrote half of the Dalek Master Plan, which makes sense because the monk does reappear in the Master Plan. So he also wrote 6 episodes of the Master Plan. But yeah, the revelation that the monk is of the same race as the Doctor and has his own TARDIS is another one where you're like, what's going on here? We need to know more.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like it changes the whole perception of the story as we know it thus far, because the monk goes from just this weird, evil, kind of maniacal character, and it completely flips his character. And within that moment of just seeing the roundels, you're like, oh god, this is not, you know, this is not our regular villain here. And again, I'm a big fan of it because my friend was telling me who watched it. He was like, "Oh, episode 2 is the worst episode." I like episode 2, where essentially the Doctor's not in it, and it's just Vicky, Vicky and Stephen just wandering about trying to find him. I think that's a really encapsulating, and again, the fact that Stephen is so smart that he doesn't believe the monk. He's like, "Nah, he's I don't trust a word he's saying." Like, he's definitely seen the Doctor. I think that's a really good scene as well, where the monk is playing it so cool. The actor who you got, Peter Butterworth. Who he plays, he doesn't play it like it's obvious, you know, he's not doing it as like a pantomime, he's playing it quite, you know, serious. So he's playing it as if he was trying to hide his cover. He wasn't just going, I haven't seen the Doctor. No, it was proper good acting. And it's just, again, a very strong story. So when Stephen and Vicky's plot gets to this point where they finally see his TARDIS, it's like it comes full circle. Their plot actually meant something. They actually were important to the plot at large, because that's sometimes what can happen in Classic Who is the Doctor will go off and do the important stuff while the companions do the side stuff that don't really matter to the plot, and they sort of just get involved. But this time what they do directly affects the rest of the story.
Yeah.
And I think it's brilliant writing. I also love the joke of they think the TARDIS is gone because the tide comes in, and the Doctor's like, nah, that's all right.
The ship's indestructible.
I think it's brilliant because obviously that's also like a faux kind of cliffhanger as well, because you're like, oh shit, how are they going to get back? And he's like, nah, it's all right. Comes to a very abrupt ending where the Doctor's like, it'll be all right. I think that's brilliant. But is there any like highlighted scene you guys want to talk about before we get into like the ending, and the very smart ending, might I add?
I think actually the ending for me is the best scene, where he's reading the Doctor's letter. I think that to me is the highlight of the story.
Yeah, it's sort of his own playful comeuppance, isn't it? It's sort of like pulling a trick from his own car, and it's like I thought he's reading it. He's reading the letter, going, "Well, the Doctor's chatting shit," and then he goes,
"Yeah." But you do kind of wonder if a later incarnation of the Doctor, post Pertwee, where he'd had his own exile, would have done that. It's quite a harsh lesson that he teaches him, isn't it? Basically stranding him in 1066.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that he eventually gets out, but
yeah, I think this is a very I think it's a very interesting layer to the First Doctor as well, because the First Doctor is much more often very straight to the point, sort of like just give you a telling off, and that's normally what a villain would get, whereas this is a bit more manipulative. It's a bit more like, oh, I'm gonna raise the stakes a bit and be a bit cruel.
You are gonna learn a lesson here, sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think it's some brilliant, right? I mean, Owen, what do you think?
I mean, my opinions on my favourite sort of sequence in the story would be, where the Doctor does, very cleverly trick the meddler and nicks his dimensional circuit and bugs up his TARDIS and traps him there. I think it's extremely clever of him.
Yeah, literally your background.
And that is my favourite part. And I just thoroughly enjoy the whole story, to be honest.
Yeah, it's sort of difficult with these podcasts when the story is just good. It's a lot more interesting. Like me and John were saying, I think with the first Guardians, because that film is just, both of them are perfect to us, but that one's like in the general consensus world just known as like a top quality film, whereas in the second one it's more me and you defending it a bit more, so you more good because that one's the second Guardians film still liked, but I think we both prefer it to the first, which is not.
We've got slightly sort of different opinions to the general public on it, sort of thing.
I also love the scene with the Vikings when they come in and the Doctor and the monk just sort of like get the upper hand on them, and so as soon as they barge in through the room, you've got either the Doctor or the monk. They're both hiding behind doors, and they just pick up this really thin piece of wood and just smashes it over their head and knocks them clean out.
I think it's pretty. It's like even some of the actions is pretty good. I think as well, this might be my favorite William Hartnell performance that I've seen. I've not seen all the stories. There's still a bunch I have to watch. Because that's unfortunately for me, and again, it's just me being a prick. I have to be in the right mood for a Hartnell story because some of them can be a bit slow and prodding. Which again, I have an issue with that with a lot of classic Who anyway. Sometimes with the Pertwee era. I'm sorry, John. But I never have a problem with John Pertwee. Just some of the storytelling's a bit slow. I speak to you, season 7. I love Inferno. Don't hate me.
Season 7.
Well, that's good. I like Inferno.
Season 7 is the finest season of Doctor Who history.
If you throw out Silurians, and you'll.
I cannot wait for a collection box set. There's something I'm not going to say on the podcast, but I'll say to you afterwards. Don't worry, it's not abusive. It's just not something. No, don't worry, it's not abusive. It's just not something I can share publicly.
Fair enough. But yeah, so I think it's
little something I heard on Saturday. So
very nice. And I think again, this is my favorite Hartnell performance. It's my favorite Hartnell story. I think of the ones I've watched, the Aztecs is still my favorite because I just love the story. I love how it uses time. It's kind of the first really consequences of time. It's my favorite one. But I think in terms of Hartnell's performance, from start to finish, every scene he's in, he's commanding the scene. He's always on top. I don't think he flubs his line. I'm not saying obviously he's a brilliant actor, but he obviously had the occasion of flubbing his lines. I didn't notice any of that here at all.
There's one bit in the last, I've episode 3 or 4, over the word sarcophagus, which is hard for anybody to say. And the circumstances under which they were filming it, I'm not going to hold it against him. These days, if an actor fluffs a word or fluffs a line, it gets retaken. And they didn't used to do that then. They didn't have time.
I think there's also a bit where they're inside the TARDIS, and the monk says something, and clearly William doesn't hear him, and he goes, "What was that?" Just to get him to repeat it. So I mean, there's the odd bit of that still, I think.
Yeah.
But overall, a quality episode, and I think we should go into unless anyone else any other comments, should go into our number ratings out of 10, and then find out what story we're reviewing next month, though. Any other comments we want to make? Have we crossed the board and everything everyone wants to say, or has it not been?
I think we're pretty much done. I mean, it's a solid Hartnell for me. It's a pretty solid one for me. So I've got no sort of further comments.
Owen?
Same.
All right, who wants to give their number rating first?
I will give an 8 to the story,
Yep.
but I will give a 10 to Hartnell and Butterworth because I think that they're fantastic in it.
There you go, Owen.
I'll give it a 9 out of 10 overall.
Oh, I'm gonna stick with John and say 8. Overall solid. I think for me a 9. When I look at my other 9 out of 10s, I don't know if I put this in.
I mean, I could have said 9 if I'd allowed my marking for Hartnell and Butterworth to drag it upwards, couldn't I?
Yeah. but there we go. Right, Owen, we got lucky this month. We've been quite lucky thus far because considering we started the series, what have we had? Caretaker, Nimons.
Invasion of the Dinosaurs, you didn't you?
Yeah, Invasion was the start. So we had Invasion, Caretaker, Nimons, Curse of the Black Spot, and now this. So far, not a duff card. I don't know how long this is going to last. Also, it's been weirdly swinging classic, new Who. So let's see if that continues well. John, I want you to make a bold prediction of what Doctor you think we're going to get. If you get the right Doctor, I'll give you bonus points.
I'm just gonna play the percentages and say Tom Baker.
That's a smart choice. Yeah, but say it's either Tom Baker or a Mon Doctor, isn't it? Is your best chance in terms of numbers, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like 7 years of Tom Baker. Say, Baker or Tennant are probably your two most likely.
Yeah,
but I'm going to.
I'll go with Davison because I don't even know if we've done a Davison yet.
We haven't. We've done it on the podcast, but I've not done one with you. We've not done a Tennant either. We've not done a Jodie. Let's see what dogs we've done. We've not done 2.
We've done a Sylph.
We've not done 2. We've not done 5,
6,
7. We've done 6. We did Time Lash. That was shambolic. But
that was our first one.
Oh yeah, we did do.
That wasn't a random selection, though, was it?
No, that was a choice.
That was actually my choice.
So was Unicorn and the Wasp. So was Unicorn and the Wasp. So we have done a 10 actually. My bad. We haven't done 9. So the only one that we haven't done is 9, and we haven't done 2, 5, or 7.
Yeah.
So if it could be any of those, let's find out.
Drum roll.
It's been clicked. It's doing a little sex thing. Oh, I haven't watched this in a while. Okay, it's classic Who. It's not Tom Baker. It is the second Doctor. We're going all. We're staying black and white though, because we're going to be watching the Invasion.
Yay! I love the Invasion.
I'm with you for that.
Yeah, let's do it. John, you can just join. John, you can join the series if you want. Like,
I'm literally going to go story by story and just go, yeah.
Yeah, but I also want you to go for the now one so I can see you shit on it. That'd be hilarious.
Well, no, mate. If there's something that I'm really going to shit on, that's going to be a yeah. It's the ones that I'm kind of indifferent to that I might back out of. But yeah, if Demons of the Punjab, Battle of Ranskorav Kolos, Underworld, or the Twin Dilemma comes out of your box, then I'm here with Marmite on.
Sweet. Well, first thing first, I want to say thank you to the chaps here with me. You can follow John on social media. Let's see if I get this right. It's at John Boy Cook, but isn't there an underscore in there somewhere?
John Boy _Cook.
Yeah, I always get that wrong.
Although at the moment, you will have to sort of type that in and send me a request because at the moment I am private.
There you go. So if you want to see John's top tier tweets,
not because of nudes or anything like that, I'm just private.
Yeah, it's private. Yeah, why not? And it's also, I'd say it's worth a follow because his tweets normally brighten up my day because he just says some random shit most people love. Also,
if you want cute pictures of dogs, a bit of disability political stuff, some funny shit. My Friday night tweets on Top of the Pops 1991, which never fail to disappoint. At the moment, lots of football related stuff and frequent uses of the word cunt. Follow.
Yes, and you can follow Owen at Dr. Disco 63 on Twitter and Instagram. Is that correct?
Yeah, Twitter, Instagram, yeah.
And also you can follow the Who Shop. Is it just at the Who Shop? Is that
so at the Who Shop on Twitter, and I think on Instagram it's at the Who Shop official.
Your premier premium place for Doctor Who merchandise.
Yes.
Except no other.
And also follow the Who Shop official YouTube channel.
Yes. Very good YouTube channel.
And if you get a chance at the moment over the next couple of weeks, go in there and check them out. If you're in London, they've got some great Pride displays up that I've saw some photos of. So yeah, go and say hello.
And I went to the museum as well, and it was a cracking good time. But also as well, I have a complaint with the YouTube channel Owen. NEO, not enough Owen. We need more Owen on the channel. You said the last thing you said on the channel was peace and love. So I'm sort of happy if you don't come back, and that's ending your legacy. But I find it funny whenever you're on it because it's like, oh, it's Owen. I remember.
I shall endeavour to return.
No offense to Alex, by the way. Alex is great, but I like laughing at Owen being on my.
I find it easier with Alex doing it sometimes because sometimes she just does it in like 1 or 2 takes. With me, I'm forever stumbling over my own words, so then I have to keep doing it over and over again, and I can't have anyone around me whilst I'm doing it because like it will just even be like more of a distraction.
Alex is a pro at all this, darling, isn't she? You know, she's an
actress.
She's an actor, and she's been doing interviews like this for years. I mean, there was a wonderful video clip came up on Twitter a couple of weeks ago of all the talk of the Spielberg Doctor in the early 90s, and they did an interview with Alex in the old Who Shop in East Ham, and her very forthright views on whether there should be an American Doctor were brilliantly put across.
Yeah, and there's more, lots of lovely interviews like that also available to see on the Who Shop YouTube channel.
Hey.
Right now, I let's see how good these friends are. I plugged you. Who can get my social medias right?
It's Alex King _Dom.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
On the Twitter.
It is. My Instagram's more private, so I don't
the only reason I remember it is that whenever I get a notification that says Alex King _Dom replied to your tweet, I think fucking hell. But
and what's the Timeless podcast one? Let's see if anyone gets this. It's not
the Timeless Pod on Twitter.
It's a Timeless Pod. Yeah.
Well done. Yeah. Well done. We've also relaunched the Instagram, which is just the Timeless Podcast. So if you want to go follow us there, thank you. And also subscribe to the YouTube channel, or if you're watching here, there's a bunch more of this. These chaps appear regularly. So if you like our way of chatting, there's going to be a lot of episodes with these guys on it. Anyway, so there might be, and also every other guest I get on has their own charisma, and we have our own back and forth. So every other guest I have on, they're very entertaining. It's a great show. And a lot of different things happen. Also, if you do watch on YouTube, remember just to subscribe on Spotify, iTunes, all the rest of it. There is a link tree.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, there's a link tree with all the links to everything, so it's quite easy for you to find, and you don't have to go searching yourself. But until next time, chaps, stay safe, everyone. Stay good, and we'll see you next month for the invasion if you don't listen to the rest of the show. Until then, bye-bye.
And take care of your pets in this heat. Good night.
Yeah.
Important.
It is.